I like Charlie's view the best.
This meeting is being recorded.
All right, we are live.
Hello. Greetings. This is the Audit Committee of Environmental Facilities Corp. First, let's have a roll call. See who's here.
Chair Krasansky,
Here.
Director Corcoran,
Here.
Director Zorofsky,
I'm here.
and I note that Director DeMarquis is absent, but you have a quorum.
Thank you. First, approval of, we have some draft minutes from December 11, 2025. Just looking for any motion to approve or anything that should be changed.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to second.
Great. All in favor of approval?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. KPMG is at the table. Is it Allie and Jeff? Maybe just great. Introduce yourselves, and we look forward to your presentation on the audit plan for the coming year. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Jeff Coach. I'm a managing director here with KPMG. I've been on the account the last few years, except for I had a slight break last year, but I'm happy to be back and seeing all your faces again. And I'm joined by Allie Steckel.
I'm Allie Hines. I am a senior manager. Jeff's not the first person that has mistaken my maiden name as for my married name, but this is my second year on EFC, so really happy to be back. Love working with Albert and Chris and seeing you all again.
Thanks, Allie. So we'll get into our audit plan. What you'll see a lot is it's very consistent with what we've had in the past. There isn't a lot of new pronouncements for this year, so somewhat of a quiet year as we kind of go through it. This first slide is just kind of outlining the roadmap for today. We're going to discuss we continue to deliver a better audit experience and maintain our audit quality. Briefly cover our next-gen technology being integrated into our audit and how we're controlling that to ensure we provide a quality-focused manner. Review the scope of the audit, which includes the financial statement audit, the required New York State examination procedures, and the single audit. And lastly, provide a coverage of the required communications under the auditing standards and the key risks associated with our audit plan. Our next slide is just kind of a summary of our overall audit and technology story. Down at the bottom, there are a couple of videos if you wanted to peruse and look at those later on. But overall, as we kind of take this journey with technology, our audit quality has remained our top priority. What we're using technology for is to more enhance the overall audit and not replace that professional judgment as we get into it. Technology and AI support a stronger risk assessment, give us a broader coverage and consistency across our audit. From EFC's perspective, this results in a more target and efficient information request and fewer redundant requests year over year. And that all technology that we do use is governed by KPMG's audited methodologies as well as quality control. So we're not going out of the box. We're kind of using things that have been built and tested and are inside a contained environment. As part of our audit, we look at it as two focused areas, both our people and our platform. The audit is led by experienced local leadership teams supported by firm-wide specialists as they're needed. So we'll talk about our OPEB specialists kind of reviewing some of the actuarial elements. Our project management approach is designed to stage requests, align timelines, and minimize disruption to management, and also make sure we're focusing and being a more risk-based and tailored approach to EFC's operations and being transparent and communicating early our objectives and try to avoid surprises as we go through that audit. Our next slide is just our coverage team. This slide highlights the team. The blue boxes represent those members that will be returning to the engagement for this year as well. So there's not a lot of change. We have a couple of small changes at the lead level with Kyle taking over, as well as from our subcontracting firm, Long Island Financial Management Services, Jada kind of coming on the engagement. The team includes myself and Allie leading and seeing the overall day-to-day execution, as well as involving specialists in the area of technology, actuarial and OPEB, and investment areas. Lastly, you'll see Ed Lee there. He's our independent engagement quality control review partner, who provides that additional layer of review through the file to ensure that we're meeting those standards throughout the process. With that, I'm going to turn it to Allie, who'll go through our required communication.
Yes. So on slide 7, there's a couple components of deliverables that we provide. First is over the basic financial statements. We do perform our audit in accordance with generally accepted standards with the United States and government auditing standards. We do consider internal controls over financial reporting in The audit, however, our audit is not designed to express an opinion on these controls. With our audit and in conjunction with this, we also perform an examination over the investment compliance policy that EFC has each year and ensuring it's in accordance with the state's regulations as well. And as Jeff kind of mentioned, we do have the single audit that we will report on subsequent to the basic financial statements, where we'll go through our audit of federal awards, obtaining reasonable assurance over compliance with the programs and the uniform guidance. Skipping over to slide 9, we do develop a materiality as part of our audit. This is based on both quantitative and qualitative factors. And this is an amount that we have determined would influence the users of the financial statements if a misstatement were to occur within the statements themselves. And then a brief overview of our timeline. We did some interim procedures back in January, worked with Albert and Chris to obtain and reaffirm our understanding of EFC, obtained some information in terms of meeting minutes, performed initial inquiries of things that we might want to change as part of our audit. As we're continuing on through, we did just receive the first draft of the statements themselves. So we'll work on determining our risks of material misstatement and developing our audit approach. And then as we go into May and June, we will do our substantive audit procedures, which we don't anticipate to change substantially based on our initial inquiries. So it should be pretty consistent with previous years. And then in June, we'll review the financial statements, ensure that our testing supports these statements, and ultimately also do the investment compliance and report back to you all on June 18th. And ultimately issue those statements. And then, as I mentioned, subsequent, we'll perform the single audit as well. Moving on to slide 11, we do have one significant risk as part of our audit, and this is a risk that is present at all entities, so it's not unique to EFC, and that is the risk of management override. And that's just due to management's ability to manipulate financial records and override controls that may appear to be operating otherwise. So we do have a few procedures that we do to mitigate this risk. We, of course, throughout the entire audit, maintain professional skepticism, but we do also perform significant procedures over the journal entry process, looking at the manual controls involved with reviewing those journal entries and identifying a high-risk criteria that we then review all of those entries that were made throughout the year, select entries that have our high risk criteria, and make sure that the supporting documentation and the entry itself is reasonable as well. And then slide 12 through 14 has just some of our areas of audit focus. As I mentioned, not a lot of change here. We'll, of course, confirm the cash and investment balances as well as the bonds receivable and bonds payable. For OPEB, as Jeff mentioned, we will include a KPMG actuary to ensure that the assumptions and overall valuation calculation is appropriate and within the standards. And we'll also confirm with the OPEB specialists their report that we've seen is in fact the report that they have issued. And we'll also perform some detailed testing over the census data, mainly over any changes to that census data year over year. And then we'll also perform inquiries with key management and Henrik to make sure that any contingencies are properly recognized, and in the past have not had any, right? And then slide 14 again just goes into some detail over our audit over federal awards. This is both an audit of controls and compliance. So for each compliance area for drinking water or clean water, we also test the control for that area as well, and making sure that the EFC is in compliance with those standards. And then on involvement of others, already mentioned this, the actuarial specialists. As part of our investment testing, we do independently value the investments that are held by EFC. So that is our national pricing desk that will do that valuation for us. And as Jeff mentioned, we do have our MWBEs, Team Ag Gloria, and Long Island Financial Services that will still continue to be involved this year. And Also, as Jeff sort of mentioned, the newly effective accounting standards, not a whole lot of change this year. GASB 102 is the one that will be implemented for 3/31/2026. And this is just for entities to disclose any risk that could affect their ability to meet obligations and provide services. Based on discussions with Albert and Chris, a lot of such risks related to concentration or constraints are already really disclosed in the financial statements. So there wouldn't necessarily be a lot of change that you would see, and it would primarily be in the disclosures, but we will go through in detail with Albert, the standard itself. And if there's any changes, you'll primarily see them in the footnotes as well. And then with that, Jeff will wrap us up.
So the last couple of slides here we have are just a couple of required communications as well. This is related to independence and indeed shared responsibility. So for auditor independence, it's a shared responsibility amongst management, those charged with governance at KPMG. We do maintain a formal system of independence quality control. It's important for us to have communication about any new relationships, new hires, or governance changes that are critical or significant to the audit process. Based on procedures we performed to date, KPMG is still independent with respect to EFC as we head into the upcoming audit. The next slide is, again, the typical required responsibilities of each of the parties between management, KPMG, as well as those charged with governance. The biggest thing with this slide is that the audit doesn't relieve management of their responsibilities associated to their financial statements. Management is still responsible for preparing the financial statements and maintaining effective controls, while the audit committee and those charged with governance oversee the financial process. The next slide is just a summary of required communications. Auditing standards require us to perform specific inquiries with a variety of individuals. Topics range from fraud inquiries, management override, unusual transactions, and related parties. These help support the fraud risk assessment and compliance with professional standards. If there are any matters or any of these that kind of trigger something that we'd like to discuss further, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. As we do have inquiries with management, but if anything from the committee here, something resonates, please just, feel free to reach out to us and let us know. So that concludes what we had prepared for today. We do open it up if there are any questions about the scope, time and risk areas, or any expectations you have associated with the audit.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions at this point?
Charlie, I don't. Of course, I love the term specific to accounting and auditing, professional skepticism. So, as always, well done, you guys. I appreciate everything you're doing.
I have just a question, very general. We've heard again. You I think you said it right up front. Not any big new requirements coming down, that we should be aware of. Boy, we got used to every year. It seemed like there were 3 or 4. Is there anything in the ether that you see that I've heard big things that would affect private companies, from the SEC, anything that could, let's say, result in less reporting or fewer this or some different schedule for us?
Nothing I'd say that would result in anything of a reduction, so to speak. The big one coming will be next year. It is GASB 103. I know management's still evaluating that. That might change a little bit of the reporting and how things are classified on your statements. It will not change operations or what's being reported, more so just the categorization as it tries to align a lot of the government entities and types of awards, what's considered operating versus non-operating and the likes of that.
Thank you. Yeah, good, great. And then at the state level, tier 6 would affect, in a long-term way, right?
Tier 6 would affect the pension and liability associated to the pension plans if that does change, correct?
Yep. Okay. Seeing no other questions. Thanks. No, it's great, great quick overview, and we're ready, and you obviously are too, and look forward to hearing how it goes.
Excellent. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for coming in. Awesome.
Thank you.
No further business. Would like to make a motion and a second to adjourn this committee. Anybody?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Great.
And second.
Great. All in favor of adjourning? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Great. Concludes
Thank
the
you
meeting
again.
for the audit committee. Yep. Thanks.